welcome to today's show, and thank you for having us in our home here. This is Jim Ennis, the notorious Jim Ennis, I might say. We have some pretty good debates here this morning at the studio. Folks, I just want to say one thing. Why do you think it's important to have your public meetings and stuff? People just seem to let things go on, and things gather, and money's spent, and you hear about, oh, it don't going to cost nothing. We're going to get federal dollars. Like one pocket's my federal dollars, the other one's my state dollars. And you're getting grants. A lot of these federal grants, where do they come from? You get subsidies. Where does that come from? And nobody seems to give a hoot. I'd like to say what I can't use the word I wanted. Nobody gives a hoot. I got to be politically correct. But I feel that we're an important link, and so I hope sometime during our show here we'll turn on the light bulb. But they think, what can we do? All the time I ask, what can we do about all this garbage that's going on? Well, back in Washington, they have about, I don't know, I've read one time it was 17 to 19 people DeFazio had. It was full-time, and then 3 or 4 part-time, and I don't know how many now. So say 20 people that takes information from. And the more squawking you do by things, they write this down. But I know it don't actually always get to DeFazio, because some of those people are left over from the previous president and agendas. So it don't always get back to our legislatures. But if it get enough people call, and you got a cell phone, a smartphone, you can just pick it up and ask a number, and then you can get it. I called the other day. I was watching somebody on Fox on the 20 guys that was holding out on Kevin, the House Speaker. And I says, you say it's dirty. I says, you're part of it. Holding out like this is part of it. They had a reason for doing it, I'm sure. But I says, as far as I'm concerned, everybody that comes across that border, from every day that you guys are holding out, that's raping kids, child abuse, or whatever you want to be, or sex trafficking, or carrying fentanyl. That they had enough fentanyl, I read one article, to kill 4 times the population of the U.S. 333 million is what, what's that ranger's name? He had a write-up in the Bullet newspaper from Roseburg.
Oh, I don't know.
Chuck Norris had a write-up in the Bulletin newspaper. And I wish I would have brought that today, but you can go online and find out what he had to say. A lot of the stuff that we bring up, you can go online and find, but your news sources has been liberal for a long time, your newspaper. Your newspapers, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, they have been a lot of liberalism coming down the pike. And you can see it pretty soon. They've been building up this case and building up. If you like being liberal and having the socialist ways, why don't you get a visa and go to Russia or someplace, or China, and be there and leave us Americans alone? What say you, Jim? You're being awful quiet this morning.
Well, everything's running perfectly for the elite.
For the elite.
We are going socialist, and there's not quite enough resistance yet. We're looking at South American countries like Brazil and Venezuela. Cuba's been converted for a long, long time. But I'm old enough to remember when they were not socialist countries. Very happy people, very happy countries, doing moderately well. They weren't rich countries, but they did all right. I don't want us going that way. And they say that you got to look at history to know where you're headed.
Well,
maybe we got to look at that.
I think it's important for people to go to these public meetings and find out and where things are going. Sometimes you get lucky and they will listen to you. But we've got so much money going, and we're going to solve every problem. I don't care if it's a city council or county commissioners or city hall. A lot of times, instead of just running the city or running the county, stuff like, they go far. They have an agenda. Somebody comes in and has an agenda, and they spend money needlessly on programs. And pretty soon, all these different agendas that people have, pretty soon we're taxed to death. And I think we are right now. We're spending tax money that don't need to be spent. And look at the trillions of dollars. You know, people will. Oh, let me ask you right now: are you going to join the White Eggs Matter? Now that the eggs is $10 in Arizona, it's going to come our way.
Oh, it's going to go to $12.
Or more.
Yeah, a buck an egg.
Okay.
That's easy. You know, there's a feeling that there are a lot of people that can't figure it out, so they make it a buck an egg. We're good. $100 a gallon for gas. You just round the numbers off, and you always round them up, of course. And taxes are useful for doing that. One of the issues you just touched on that we forget, and it's so easy to forget. Government is limited. Government should only be doing the things that it really, really has to do and not getting into nice guy stuff. You know, if you want to support somebody else's rights, let them support their rights. The government should be staying out of it. Unless the atrocities become really, really bad, then the government may need to step in a little bit. An example is immigration. Right now we're in a very unlawful immigration situation because a small group of people think that our government should be supporting the migration movement, whatever the migration movement is. Some claim it's from climate change, which is totally bogus. But we have an excellent set of laws on the books that our Congress and Senate and President passed at one time. And after much deliberation, they came up with a very, very good set of laws. Why are we not insisting that our government enforce the laws that it made, rather than jumping around doing these do-good things? Well, you know, we're going to help them out, and we're going to let anybody in that wants to come in, and we're going to give them everything that they need, and they don't even have to go to work because we're going to take care of them.
Right. Well, we've made
There's wrong with that.
We've made billionaires out of a lot of people by buying product, and one of them right now we're sending billions of dollars to is China and Russia both. And we was doing $20 million a month on buying oil from Russia. I didn't know about it till this Ukraine come out, and it bothers me. In America, all these women stood up for the rights of the women, right? For American women. But, there's other countries. What happens to the women? Did you see where they're shooting people over there in Afghanistan, where they left $85 billion worth of our tax dollars was in equipment, that now foreign countries can come in and go in and get all of our technologies for free? It's sickening when some of the stuff goes on, and people, it's not happening in my neighborhood. Well, I'm surprised. You was talking about solar. These rich people, they say, well, that's a good idea. How much money is there to be made in it? Just take this here, like the solar panels and stuff like that. The farm market, that in 2020, the farm market was $53 billion and expected to go over $350 million by 2028. 2028 isn't very far off.
No,
53 billion, and then 350 billion. They're going to get in on that. And they're going to become richer and richer, and they're going to they keep pushing these liberal things upon us. I don't know why it is.
Let me ask you a question. If you ran your ranch like the government runs its business, how many cows would you have at the end of the year? Right now, here you are retired, and it costs you thousands of dollars a year just to be on something that you own. Yeah.
You own everything and it costs you thousands of dollars. And it's because of, they keep pumping all these regulatory agencies. They make bills. You're supposed to both go in front of the state legislature or the Congress. A lot of this stuff is wish lists, and they come in and they let these agencies make all these rules and regulations. And why? It's growth within government. I used to, when I longshore, I love going up to Portland on Saturday and Friday and Sunday because you don't have the government people out on the road. You know, you don't even realize that they're there. It's sad, sickening situation. But anyway, that's what I'm talking about. The Reduction Act of 2022 has investment tax credits. Now, you start talking about tax credits. Whose money is that? Who has to pick up them for people that don't pay taxes? The working people, right? Yeah. Well, when is people going to get sick and tired of this stuff and start calling? You know, you can pick up your cell phone. 202 is the first number to Washington, D.C. And if you can't take a few minutes out of your life and call them people and complain, and they get tired of hearing about it. Verger used to say, when Joanne Verger, which is she liked to have written letters instead of even having the computers. And they get the computer stuff on there. She says, I throw it away. But if I get a handwritten letter, I'll sit down and read it because people had time to sit down and write me a letter. And I didn't, she was all right, but I didn't agree with everything. You know, no matter who you elect, they're not going to be 100% of what you think should be going on. It don't matter. It don't matter if it's a man or beast or women. You know, they're all going to have their own agendas. And if you have somebody re-elect going to give you a big amount of money for re-election, listen, this morning was talking about, there was something on the news about Biden. Did you catch that there about Biden? About him getting $1 million? Could you explain that to me again?
When he set up that office at Penn State University, some kind of a think tank for Chinese, the university gave Biden almost $1 million to be able to put his name on that office, so that for his name use. That was the excuse. Shortly after that, the Chinese donated like 50 million or 150 million to the university, and I suspect that is like influence money, because Biden has an office at the university. They give the university a lot of money, and then the university spends some at Biden's office as a way to pass it on through, so that Biden will do things for the Chinese government. And almost all of the scams that Hunter and Jim and Joe put together run that same way. You know, there's a middleman or a hidden person, or, you know, something that Joe can get up and say, I've never taken money from the Chinese government. Now, what he should say is, I've never taken money from the Chinese government, but Hunter has made me millions of dollars and he gives it to me under the table.
Yeah, well,
but I've never taken a dime.
I was kind of amazed the other day. There was a guy that was pretty upset and was had a bunch of people in the audience, and he was talking about the black money, the dark money, not the black money, dark money.
That's terrible.
And the dark money could be as much as going to a congressman or somebody in office, as much as you get all these millionaires or billionaires together, 8 or 10 of them, and they decide who's going to be judge, who's going to run for election, and this guy will take care of our agenda, and he will make sure that things happen where we're going to make a lot of money. And I was even standing in Salem up there, and I heard Lawton Verger. I can talk about him now because he's passed on, but he says, if there's money in it like that, we ought to get involved. I was waiting to talk to Joanne. So, it happens right. It's probably happening right here in this state. Things go on, and we don't think about it.
Well, think about the big push right now is windmills and solar, right?
Right.
Everybody in government is saying you have to get as far and as deep into it as you can. We have to have all the solar and all the wind. Now, who makes solar? Who makes windmills?
China.
China. They're the only ones that make them. So who's getting rich off of this? The Chinese. Who are they paying? Our politicians. That's where a lot of the dark money comes from. It comes through China, through a company, into the dark money realm.
Mm-hmm.
And they're buying off the folks to make sure that no matter what the science says, solar panels continue to go up and windmills continue to go up, and you can't buy a gasoline car ever again. Ever. And natural gas has to be shut down. Take away your stove. That's all. That all comes from politicians being paid off through some roundabout method from the people that are profiting.
Right. Well, it's going to be interesting. My daughter keeps track of some of this. She said that Costco had their own hatchet, their own eggs. Now that in California, I heard they bought some down there, or the eggs was $7.39 or something a dozen, and in Arizona it was $10 a dozen. And another guy I ran into the other night when I was walking, Fred Myers, he come from, I think it was Illinois. He said gas back there was under $3 a gallon. You know, here we are paying $4 almost, or right, it's just a little under $4 now here at our stations. You know, it's just a vicious circle, and you know people have to work at a profit or they can't have the buildings they got. But you know, it's like, I won't mention the name, but where I walk, there's I know the producer man there, and they hire new help. Here's a guy that's been keeping the produce up and making sure they always have enough, making the same amount of money as the new man off the street because they can't get no help. And what good's a union if they let them do that kind of stuff, you know? And I've over in, I think there was one of them taco places,
Yeah.
was paying $22 an hour because they had, the only thing you could go through is a drive-through. They didn't let them in because they didn't have enough help. So it's good and it's bad. Some people just won't work. Why would they have to work if I've been told that they can make as much money if you have a food card and get a little subsistence and a rental subsistence. They're better, not a darn bit better off if they're a little bit lazy to go to work. There's no incentive.
Fox did a little study and a news piece about that. In some areas, in some states, you could make close to $120,000 a year, family of four, husband, wife, and 2 children, to make that much money, not working, tax-free. And that to me is ludicrous. You know, the government should support those that are at the bare necessities level and should support them at that level. If they want more, they can go out and work and get more. But they shouldn't be dying in the streets for, you know, lack of food. We've gotten so completely away from that. I sometimes wonder if our politicians don't think that, well, the people in my district should be perfectly happy to sit at home and I'll feed them and I'll take care of them and they'll have kind of a minimum income. In fact, they have talked about minimum income that they can live on. And as long as they stay there, they're no bother to us. And an awful lot of people fall for that. Okay, I'll go sit and I'll collect that government money and I won't bother nobody. Or if it comes time to vote, I'll vote for whoever's giving me the money because I don't want to go to work. You get out of work for a while and you may not ever want to go back. It's upsetting to those that believe in working for a living.
We are lucky that we have some organizations that's watching us. I get some information from the Judicial Watch, and they're suing for records right now for possible obstruction by the FBI on Hunter Biden. You know, that's a sad state of affairs. You know, they're not supposed to. They're like the county. The county don't have to say whether you're Republican or Democrat, nonpartisan, I believe it's called. And that's the way the FBI is supposed to be operating, but they haven't. You can see, go clear back to the records.
Hoover.
Huh?
J. Edgar Hoover. You can go back to him.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a lot of stuff on him, and that's when those congressmen were much younger, and they had the girly parties, and he had all the information on him. He could have anything he wanted.
Yeah.
Because he was in control. But no, you know.
You think it's changed?
Heck no, it hasn't changed. Look at that Oklahoma bombing. Do you think any of the FBI or any of them federal agencies in there, a lot of kids got injured and killed. They must have surely have known if there's not a one there, or else they was down at the donut shop having coffee. You know what I mean? Anyway, she never did answer me if you're going to join the White Eggs Matter. We're going to start that club. You know, remember that?
Brown eggs matter more.
You know, we tried some of them the other day. We got a whole flat of them, but them they looked like there's pullet eggs. It's a lot smaller, and we boiled them. You couldn't even hardly get the shell off them. Or the white eggs, they come right off. So I'm sticking with the white eggs.
Well, the scientific study says that once you break down the egg and analyze it, the only difference is some pigmentation in the outer shell. There is absolutely, chemically, no scientific difference between the eggs other than the color of the outer part of the shell.
Right.
If you look at a brown egg, on the inside, the shell's almost white.
Right.
So color don't matter.
Yeah.
Color don't matter. Don't be telling me that white people have to go home and give everything they own to black people and stuff like that.
Well, you know, things are coming out now about the vaccines and stuff, you know. And Judicial Watch is watching that too. And I guess there was a federal, for federal employees, it was in compliance that they were supposed to take shots. So Supreme Court ruled the way they were doing it was unconstitutional. So that's good. Now, I just heard yesterday, I think it was, up in Gaston, from McMinnville and Newburgh, there's a little town off, and it's just a main street going through town. It's a wide spot on the road.
Yeah.
3 football players, 14 to 15 years old, died after they had the shot. Now, somebody should have to be held responsible for that, but I guess I'm not ever took the shot, so I don't know if you have to sign off your life and saying it's okay that you can't sue them.
Tucker Carlson has been really hot on that one. And the problem that he's having is that it appears the government or Pfizer, the manufacturers, nobody has tracked the numbers so that there's no data available to prove or disprove whether the shot is hazardous. Because, you know, it's a typical socialist government thing. You're going to do this, and we are not going to track the data on it, so we can say it worked, and you can't argue about it because there won't be any data to argue with.
I was reading that. You know, you can only say so much on our time. We got a half hour on here, and if you're reading an article, they can only put so much on that article, so they shortened it up. And the Judicial Watch got 1,081 pages from the U.S. Health and Human Service that showed adverse events or deaths that should have been told to the public. You know, they there's one sentence in there out of their whole page. They can't come on and just say certain things, because if they come out and tell the truth about it, you got 2 sides of the story. They probably would be sued, or if they're a 501c3, they're going to take it away from them. You know what I mean?
If it's hazardous, how can they have mandates? So the minute they let this data get out there that the shot might be hazardous, they lose control over the public because they can't dictate a mandate for something that might be harmful. Everything that you see happening in the news and articles like this trace back to power.
Power and money.
Power and money. Power and money. And somewhere back, and the little guy don't mean nothing. The little guy is just something to have power over and draw from. That's where the money comes from.
Well, you can go on your smartphone, look at Obama. How did he get so rich and have, one newscast said he had five or six more homes across the U.S. Yeah. And they may not be in his name. It might be under a corporate name. It's just like I see DIP on socks made in China. Then you see them made in a different country. But how do you know that isn't a sister company from China? So, to me, I try buying stuff. It's pretty much impossible to not buy something that's made in China. It's almost
I wanted to get one thing in before the show's over about BlackRock. They are running an awful lot of ads on TV where BlackRock is saying that we are taking union money, union pension money, and investing in America. Well, what they're investing in is going into towns like Coos Bay and buying all the homes that are up for sale. And then jacking the prices way up where they make a massive profit.
A lot of corporate doing that.
BlackRock is one of the biggest. And they've been doing it for a while. And they're using pension money to do it. If these unions are so people-friendly, why are they letting the BlackRock take their money and jack housing costs way out of sight where nobody can afford to have a home?
Right.
So, I think DeSantis was talking about putting some restrictions on that. And state of Oregon, I believe, may be looking at putting restrictions on that. I doubt it will pass because BlackRock's got enough money to buy them off. I
looked on the computer. My friend keeps track of Salem. There was 200 mandated. It's either mandated or what do you call executive orders for the new people coming into Salem. 200 of them already. And the first 2 weeks, Kotek has already got that. It's been lining that up evidently before she even got it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and I got something I forgot to tell last. I had a guy come to the ranch and he told me about people in Coos County that took Essig. It's a bark and herbs and stuff like that. And people that had cancer, it put it in remission. It solved it. You can get that over at the Breeze. I went into that Breeze behind North Bend, McDonald's. It's in that little cubicle there where there's a bunch of businesses in there. There's a hearing aid and hairstylist right on the end, the L shape there down there. And they got little packets in there. You take and boil it for 5 minutes, take the lid off, boil it for another 5 minutes, let it sit overnight, and you strain the stuff out and boil it again, and you drink it. It's tea. I've tried some of it. It's not too bad. And it's an Essig tree, an Indians herbs are made. And they also help with people with bras or wigs. And I think for if you have a mastectomy or problems.
I haven't had any of those.
Yeah, I haven't had a problem yet, but I think it was $250 or something to help pay for getting a check for cancer of the breast. So they're good people, and a lot of that they donate quite a few people that need it to the people. Good. And if I have had diabetes since I was 23 years old, folks, I give my longevity to going out and dancing. I've danced for years. Every Tuesday night, the Eagles has a dance over there. They have several different bands come in and from 6 o'clock to 10. And I walk Fred Meyer's, I walk Walmart, If you sit around on your hind end, you want to die. You want to get up and move, you might live a little longer. It's worked for me. Maybe it'll work for you. Anyway, I want to thank you for being in our homes. If you guys think about some of the stuff here and you get mad at what's happening in the state or federal, get on your cell phone and ask for the number. You can get it. That's easy as that. And just keep squawking. And I want to thank you for that and coming in our home. If you want to volunteer, we got a few hours a week, a month, and we'll train you. If you need training, maybe you can train us. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Jim, for coming in.
Thank you.